Eric, I imagine that's what you were looking for when you rested the guys on midweek to kind of come in with this rejuvenated finish here.
Yeah, I felt like it did justify that decision, and I think I sort of wanted to reserve judgment on how good a decision that was until the end of today. But I feel like we went all in on this game, and ultimately we got what we certainly deserved, but also planned for. So yeah, certainly validates the way we've planned the week, and I'm obviously learning my craft a little bit in terms of managing the MLS and the summer months and some of the things that we're going to have to contend with. So I feel like certainly squad management is one of those things, and yeah, we lost the game on Wednesday, but there's miles in the legs now for players, and I feel like hopefully we get a net positive, and we've come out of this week in really good shape, and hopefully this helps us come out of the month in really good shape. So it's certainly been a good week.
Was that second half sort of as comfortable to you as it looked like from maybe upstairs?
Yeah, I think it was one of our most complete performances, I would say, and we've shown dominance in all phases of the game, which obviously I talk about a lot here. Talk about us wanting to be a team that can do more in organised possession, but always with that caveat that I know what suits this group. I know the way in which we are best off defending and attacking. But I feel like tonight, when the opposition they're in a bad moment, and there's certainly an expectation that at home we would be dominant to a certain extent against a team in that position. I feel like we've been able to show that and execute it well. And I think if you look back at the goals we score, there's a really good balance there, and that's ultimately what I want. We were dominant on set plays. The build-up to both goals come from an element of direct play, us being really well set for second balls and being able to open up space as a consequence of that. And then when we've got in those positions tonight, we've shown some real precision around the box and some really neat combination play, and the players that we expect to show up around the top of the box and breathe life into the game and excite the crowd. They've done that today, and we spoke a lot about that prior to the game, because I felt like last time we were here in this situation against Vancouver, we didn't show that personality and that spark and that individuality we need to make sure that there is that connection with the crowd, and I felt like we certainly got that, and it was another really good night here.
You spoke about the offensive domination, but on the other side of the pitch, you had your 7th clean sheet of the season. Talk about your defensive domination, especially overall in the season.
Yeah, that's huge for us, and I don't want to take that for granted, because it's very hard to get a team to do what those guys are doing, which is showing an incredible level of resilience and discipline and organisation. And it's a really workmanlike team that I talk about all the time in terms of being able and willing to carry out a game plan. And I felt like they did that really, really well. So I'm glad you raised the point, because I don't want to stand up here and talk about the bits that we don't always do, because ultimately we have a foundation that we set all of our performances on, and all our results so far this year have been based upon that real solidity. So yeah, it's a huge pat on the back again for the players in that sense, and they will certainly hear a lot about that over the course of the coming week.
You talk about kind of the neat combination play and kind of breathing life into things. It seemed like Robin was kind of integral in that tonight.
Yeah, I think him and Joaquin had a really good link with one another. They had a really good link off Tani, I would say. That's worth mentioning. I feel like Tani's really improved with his back to goal, his link up play, the way he uses his body. It's nice, a really good example of him being really clean in those moments, and obviously the cleaner Tani is in those moments, the more Robin and Joaquin benefit, because they're arriving onto good quality sets. They can then add continuity and flow to the game, and I think those two did a really good job, and Will and Carlos backed them up really well, and Bongi was very neat around the box in a couple of moments. So yeah, we needed to take a step forward in that sense, and we certainly did.
Tani's goal, which he scored with his back to goal, is that one of those things that's harder than it looks, sort of?
I think it is, and again, yeah, so that's not something I want to take for granted. I think that takes us up to nine goals from set plays in 13 games, and that's that is some going. That's a lot of dedication behind the scenes. It's real buy-in from the players, and Tani will get the plaudits, but there's a lot that goes into that in terms of the delivery and making sure we get the first contact, making sure we're in a good position for the second ball, and he finishes it really nicely. So yeah, in all senses, back to goal tonight, very, very good.
On the other hand, going to Joaquin's goal, that was a 3-man setup, 2 passes, and then back into the penalty arc for the goal. What did you think of that?
Yeah, it was really good, and we again, have been crying out for that, just the precision around the top of the box. And I feel like in the home games that we've drawn this year, or the Vancouver game, we get to the top of the box a lot, and we are sometimes lacking that real killer instinct and that ruthlessness. And I feel tonight like the base of the structure, the closeness of the players around the top of the box, it gives you first and foremost a really good chance to see that type of thing. But then the players have got to execute, and I felt like once we got into our flow, you could feel there was a real sense of confidence. You could feel like we had a chance of it being a really good night in front of goal, and Joaquin was pivotal in most of the moves that take us to the top of the box. And tonight he's been absolutely pivotal in the in all three, I'll say, with the corner delivery added to that.
In terms of playing St. Louis again on Wednesday, do you feel it's helpful to almost demoralize the opponent to beat them so comprehensively?
It does make their week tough. I don't think there's any getting around that, in the sense that they now go back to St. Louis. They'll certainly travel either on the Tuesday or the day of the game, perhaps. I think I've heard that mentioned in one of their press conferences. So I feel like that's not an easy task. And we've been on not quite on the end of this exact situation, but I know what it feels like to another flight, another couple of hours in the plane, in the players' legs, and coming to a place where over the course of my time here, they haven't had a great deal of joy, and I certainly don't want to tempt fate in that sense. But it's a tricky situation, and it's for us to capitalise on that. And there'll be some pressure around that game on Wednesday. And we talked on Friday about this being the beginning of a 3-game week, as opposed to the end of a week that we've had some difficulty in Houston, and the players will approach it in that way with the real freshness, energy, and it's another chance on Wednesday to excite a home crowd and hopefully take the next steps in that competition.
Going into Wednesday, you mentioned St. Louis, they have to travel back. On the other hand, what are your preparations, expectations for Wednesday? And coming from England, how do you feel about the US Open Cup and its comparison to the FA Cup?
I think I obviously grew up in a country where these cup competitions are huge, and obviously the FA Cup final is taking place today, and it's been an opportunity for a team that maybe wasn't fancied prior to the game to win a trophy for the first time, and that's what cup competitions provide. And we want to make sure that we give ourselves the best chance of progressing. We obviously want to make sure that we manage the squad well, and we're sensible about that. But we will try and put our best foot forward. We'll prepare very diligently and professionally for that over the course of Monday, Tuesday, and the guys that play today will have a chance to rest, and the guys that are in contention to play on Wednesday will train. They'll train hard, and then we'll bring the group together on Tuesday, and we'll see what lineup we come up with. But I think everyone in that room will be wanting to play in that game, because everyone loves playing at home, everyone loves the atmosphere, everyone loves the energy that the crowd brings, and everyone will want a chance to do what they've done today. So I certainly won't be short of good options for that game.